those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence.
Yes, Mad Maxine Waters of California. She is amazingly and appallingly a member of the United States House of Representatives thanks to the party of criminals, the Democrat Party. They love crime. They love criminals. They love Luigi Mangione. They love them all. Very happy and wonderful Wednesday to you, and welcome back once again. We continue to be at 888-630-9625. Absolutely toll-free to you, our beloved listeners. Democrats, well, they imposed a curfew last night on Democrats because of the rioting, and the media, CBS News sent apparently their chief anchor, not exactly Walter Cronkite, out there sitting in the street yesterday, and they sent their anchorman out there to sit in the street with a satellite truck and all kinds of crew people and lighting and makeup and hair people. And then the anchor actually complained that this whole thing is being blown out of proportion. He didn't say by whom it was being blown out of proportion, but of course the answer is by him, as he complained that it was being blown out of proportion because the news media is demented. It reminds me of Terry Moran. Terry Moran, the ABC newsman and television guy and anchorman and Trump hater and Stephen Miller despiser. He was let go by ABC News yesterday, kind of an amazing development. And we have our great friends, the wonderful people at the Media Research Center. They operate Newsbusters as well. MRC, Brent Bozell's wonderful organization, the Bozell family's wonderful organization, great American family. And Media Research Center put together a little mashup, a little montage of Terry Moran being Terry Moran over the years, proving that he's a radical left-wing Democrat Party activist and not a journalist at all. And here it is, MRC put it together. I'm going to share that with you today because, ABC was fine with everything he had been saying for years and years about Donald Trump and conservatives and Republicans. And they were fine with all that until they had a situation where they thought they might be sued and lose tens of millions of dollars. They've got to give that money to George Stephanopoulos because they pay him $25 million a year. And he was not a journalist when they hired him. Of course, he was just a member of the Clinton administration and a longtime Democrat political operative who was then given this multi-million-dollar anchorman job on ABC Fake News, where they also pay the women of The View. ABC News does, not just ABC Network, but ABC News Division. They pay the alleged women, nobody's checked in a long time, of The View, who don't tell the truth. They don't tell the truth at all. And that's like Maxine Waters. We just opened with Mad Maxine, who is out of her ever-loving mind and a danger to civilization. These people are right out of the third world. They've crawled out of the third world ooze, and now they run the Democrat Party in the United States. Oh, we've got another Democrat, too, who yesterday was ranting and raving about how Los Angeles riots are no problem, and don't worry about that because it's not January 6th. He said it's not. They love January 6th. Boy, do they love Boy, do I wish that 2 hours of rough play had not happened because then they'd still have nothing, absolutely nothing, zero to point to in 200 years of, not quite, of the Republican Party. They'd have nothing to point to at all except taking their slaves away in the Civil War. But they took care of that. They shot Abraham Lincoln in the head and killed him at a theater. That's one of the things about the Democrats. That's how they respond quite frequently. Amazingly stuff. But this Democrat House member, he said that, what did he say, Michael? Five people were killed, he said. On, Joe Biden some Joe Biden matching audio on that, because he, too, over the years said that 6 people were killed and 5 people were killed, and they're all police officers. And the Democrat Party produces a lot of pathological liars, and the Democrats elect them to Congress because, they don't have that many governor's mansions to put them in. Aren't they amazing? Yes, sir. So we've got updates for you on this, but it's not just that. I got Greta von Thunberg. Greta von Thunberg was deported by Israel, and they deported her to France, which is kind of funny. Here you have her, and she's out there, and they put her kind of almost in the bathroom on the airplane on an El Al flight, and it was great because when the flight landed, they got a round of applause from the passengers for deporting this rapscallion, this little fake child prophet of apocalyptic doom, kind of like David Hogg. They should get married, don't you think? And see if they could reproduce, and they'd produce scaly things, remarkable stuff. But she got it upside, and they put her right next to the bathroom. It was like a jump seat. Not only did it not recline because it was up against the bathroom and in the back row, but it was like a jump seat that you find on an Air Force plane, barely even a seat at all. And they sent her back they sent her not back. She's not from France, although I think she sailed a yacht there once, didn't she? She loves sailing on yachts. And they put her on an airplane. And there's a what is it, the Babylon Bee, making fun of her, putting her on an airplane, the torture that must have represented. Wonderful stuff, because, she's anti-global warming, climate change, all that good stuff. You people, you Democrat people. So the riots in L.A., mysterious riot gear handed out to L.A. protesters raises questions. Even Newsweek magazine had it, because the Fox News TV station in Los Angeles got video of organized Democrats, and you're never going to believe it. It turns out that the organization is a radical left-wing organization that loves terrorism and violence and crime. And we, the American taxpayers, have been giving the organization millions and millions of our dollars. You know why? Because of Democrats, because the corrupt organization, they should be covered by RICO, called the Democrat Party. And millions of dollars have gone to this radical left-wing group that's out there handing out riot gear, and they're masked like terrorists. And the Democrat Party has made sure that we, the taxpayers, have been funding this radical group with tens of millions of our dollars. The Democrat Party might have to be declared a terrorist organization and disbanded in the United States of America, because they're a criminal enterprise. They're a daily violation of RICO statutes. I've got to say, got that going. Also, President Trump was at Fort Bragg, once again called Fort Bragg and not Fort Hunter Biden, or whatever the Democrats changed it to. And they got, their crack troops at Fort Hunter Biden. It's a little Fort Hunter Biden crack reference there. But President Trump was there at Fort Bragg, which the Democrats renamed. They did rename it, because turned out a lot of bases had been named after Democrats, and they were all part of racist lynch mobs when the Democrats named the bases, and they're all Democrats, every one of them. Confederate Democrats. The Democrats were the Confederate States of America in the American Civil War. But the violent mob in the streets of L.A., there was a curfew last night. And you see the mounted police, the horse police, police on horseback out there, pushing away the lunatics, the mental cases, and fun stuff. They want to defund the police and the horses. You see, they have to put shields around the horses' faces and the horses' eyes, because the Democrats will attack the horses, because the Democrat Party is not well. And these illegal alien gang members that the Democrats all want their daughters to date, the Democrats don't want them kicked out of the country. They want them sent to your neighborhood to commit more crimes, because the Democrat Party is not on the side of civilization. They're the left. They're basically communists. Most of them are too stupid to know that they've been brainwashed, and now they're glassy-eyed zombies of doom. But never mind that. Yeah, so who's handing out the riot gear, and who's funding them? The Daily Caller has a great story, how well-funded organized leftists helped jumpstart L.A. riots. This is 100% on the Democrat Party. all of it. And then they have idiot members of Congress come out and say, oh, yeah? Well, 5 people were killed on January 6th. Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed after serving 12 years in the Air Force by a racist cop, Michael Byrd, and he was promoted and championed by the Democrat Party as a hero of shooting unarmed white women who might have been accused of trespassing. Maybe but shoot and kill. They should put signs up around the Capitol. U.S. Capitol Police will shoot to kill without warning. And that's, that's because that's the Democrat Party. Now, if it were George Floyd and Ashley Babbitt had been a career criminal junkie committing another felony and resisting arrest, then the Democrats would be really upset if she were killed. But since she served 12 years honorably in the United States Air Force and wasn't kicked out for repeated cocaine abuse like Hunter Biden was kicked out of the Navy for cocaine abuse, no big deal. Amazing stuff. Gavin Newsom hits back at Trump in primetime address. It's like the Communist Party, information dominance. Hey, I'm going to come out and lie to you. Will you put me on live in primetime? Oh, you bet we will. In fact, we're going to go out and burn a Tesla. Let's go out and burn something. Amazing stuff. So Gavin Newsom, primetime address, the Democrat Party propaganda owning the information landscape. It's really the Soviet Union is here. They just changed their name to the Democratic Party, which is not democratic at all. So we've got that. That's good stuff. And Vivek Ramaswamy, Gavin Newsom starting to resemble George Wallace. And Vivek Ramaswamy put together a fun video where he explains the similarities between the racist Alabama governor, George Wallace, segregationist, standing in the schoolhouse door, as all schoolhouse door blockers were, another Democrat. And by the way, a volunteer for his presidential campaign, shot and killed Martin Luther King. And that doesn't rub off on him at all because Democrats. And George Wallace was later shot by a would-be assassin and left paralyzed. What is usually left out of that is the would-be assassin actually wanted to assassinate Richard Nixon because, they call themselves liberals, I think. He wanted to assassinate Richard Nixon, and he stalked Richard Nixon, but found the Secret Service was going to be too much of a challenge, so he changed the focus of his ire. And in Laurel, Maryland, not too far from here, he shot and nearly killed Governor George Wallace, who had been running for president again and again. But never mind that. And then his volunteers shot and killed Martin Luther King. Amazing stuff. Yes, sir. And at the Atlantic magazine, because they've got a lot of issues over there, Hitler. The headline begins with the word Hitler. You're always off to the races when the Democrats start with the word Hitler in their headline. Hitler, this is great, used a bogus crisis of, quote, public order, end quote, to make himself dictator. The Atlantic, the dictator. That's when Barack Obama meets a potato. That's amazing stuff. Hitler used a bogus crisis. Oh, is that what happened? He was also the Socialist Workers' Party. Sounds kind of like Bernie Sanders and you guys in the streets, and the black shirts and the brown shirts terrorizing the Jews on college campuses, especially Ivy League college campuses, where all you media swanks went. And honestly, the Hitler comparisons are great. While they're firebombing the home of the Jewish governor in Pennsylvania, while they're inviting illegal aliens in that are using blowtorches on Jewish marchers, pro-Israeli marchers, Molotov cocktails. The guy set himself on fire a little bit, but not enough. The Democrats invited him into the country because they're so much like Nazis that they shouldn't be allowed to use the word anymore, at least until they start talking about themselves. Speaking of the Democrats, they started looting the jewelry district yesterday in Los Angeles, California. But the police were preoccupied with the left-wing protests on the streets of Los Angeles. So the Democrat mobs, racists that they are, they attacked jewelry stores. And a nice immigrant man there in Los Angeles said he thinks he's probably going to be put out of business. He's an immigrant. The Democrats care very deeply about illegal aliens, but if you're a legal immigrant, you built a business, you're raising a family, the Democrats want to burn you down That's the Democrat Party. What's the matter with these people? Anti-ICE protests expand to New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, and beyond because they like to nationalize their terrorism. And, of course, Gavin Newsom's talking about civil war, and so is The View. Isn't that amazing stuff? Yeah, we've got an update on LaMonica MacGyver. She's a Democrat member of Congress, too, assaulting federal officers to defend illegal aliens. The poll number is not doing very well for the Democrats. I consider that to be almost tertiary, but and all of the illegal aliens in the country planning terrorist attacks, the Democrats invite them in. 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. All right, let us go to the telephones, Michael, and speak to the nice people at 888-630-9625. I've got a Greta Thunberg update. Wonderful story in the Washington Free Beacon today. Genocide at 40,000 feet. I want to get into that because it's funny and it's good stuff. Right now, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to William calling from Manassas, Virginia. William, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking my call. So a comment you made earlier about, I think there was some of the people out in the streets over, they had armor and riot gear, whatever. I mean, I don't know the laws particularly, but is it illegal to have that equipment?
Illegal to wear body armor? Probably not. Maybe if you're in the commission of a crime, it would be an added, an enhancer on other charges pressed against you. No, but I think it's probably legal to wear body armor. But when you have an organization, the reason I mention it, William, is because there's video of these organizers with masks on unloading a truck and passing these things to leftists lining up to collect their riot supplies. And then the question, William, becomes who is paying for that, right? Because it looks like there is a well-funded organization that's very much involved in the street violence in L.A. And we'd want to know the answer to that, right?
Yeah, if there was some organization that was deliberately behind the violence, whatever. But I don't know if there was how much. Again, I haven't been. I'm sure you've been watching the reporters and everything a lot more than I have, given your job, whatever. But I don't know how many of the looting and stuff is done by people wearing body armor.
Right. No, listen, we're talking about body armor and other riot supplies being distributed by masked people in the midst of the violence and the chaos. Since you brought it up again, William, I'll tell you what, I'll explain just ahead. All right, now we know that the left is very organized and that they have contempt for human life and for civil order, that they're the left, they're anarchists, they shoot people and burn things. That's the Democrat Party. Now, we did a segment on this very topic on my television show last night on the Newsmax channel at 10 p.m. Eastern, at 7 o'clock on the West Coast, if everything goes as planned. But there are good stories on the topic also from the Daily Caller, and Newsweek magazine has kind of a fake story on it. But they gave it a headline anyway. Mysterious riot gear. The riot gear is not mysterious, so the first word in the Newsweek story is false in their headline. Mysterious riot gear handed out to L.A. protesters raises questions. I think it raises questions to you. It raises questions. The Newsweek magazine people, pretty funny. TV cameras, and it was the Fox News local station, Channel 11, Fox 11 in Los Angeles, I believe, that we played for you yesterday. And they, in fact, we did use it yesterday, but it's worth using again today because it's about the media and only a Fox News local station, and we were reporting it on Newsmax last night as well. CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, they're hiding from this. They're not reporting it. But we did play this segment from the local Los Angeles Fox station last night with the videotape that they captured on the streets of a truckload of leftists handing out riot gear to the rioters so that they may more effectively riot in the streets of Los Angeles. And again, most of our news media, the overwhelming majority, doesn't care because they're covering it up. They're not covering it. And Newsweek magazine with the story, TV cameras have captured boxes of bionic shields. They're bionic shields being distributed to protesters in Los Angeles on Monday. Footage of the scene showed boxes of solid, full face masks, almost akin to helmets, being handed out from the back of a pickup truck by two women while a masked driver waited for them to unload the goods. They call them goods. The footage has sparked concerns among some, but not Democrats, that external agitators are facilitating riots by equipping crowds for potential clashes with the police or National Guard. However, and here they jump right in to defend the communist murderer, violent mob of criminals who ought to be in penitentiaries. However, others say the masks are safety gear. No, it's just safety gear. Yeah, when the communists attacked across from the north of the 38th parallel into South Korea, they were also wearing helmets and gear for the same reason. It's safety gear. The communists were invading, and the news media, Newsweek magazine, said, oh, no, they found somebody. It's safety gear. However, others say the masks are safety gear, worn as a precaution after protesters were injured. That's because they're violently attacking the police in mobs while they're looting and burning and stealing jewelry from jewelry store and the Apple store. You see, they looted out the Apple store, too. It's hard to feel too bad about that, but somebody probably owns it. They were injured by rubber bullets that authorities fired. This is, can you believe these people? They immediately turned to defending the rioters and the people handing out the riot gear because the left. Now, when we talked about it last night, turns out there is a on the Newsmax show on the Right Squad at 10 p.m. There's a taxpayer-funded group that is behind this. Los Angeles riots looking more organized. And wait a minute, who's behind these riots? Now, there are multiple news reports that have dug into this, not the New York Times or the Washington Post or CNN or 60 Minutes or ABC News with George Stephanopoulos, but there's a taxpayer-funded group called the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. The Coalition for Humane Immigrant. You mean illegal immigrant rights. You mean giving gift baskets to gang members who are here to rape, kill, loot, and plunder. And this group is called CHIRLA, CHIRLA, right? Because it's the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. And how that becomes CHIRLA, nobody knows. But they're not literate people. CHIRLA has received millions of dollars by way of government grants, our taxpayer dollars. According to their 2023 tax returns, $34 million have gone to this group called CHIRLA, right? And grant records show that Department of Homeland Security, under Democrats and the permanent bureaucracy, granted this left-wing, this radical left-wing organization, $1.2 million for what they said would be citizenship instruction and naturalization application service. So they want gang members and cartel members to be ushered through the process so they can kill here for the rest of their lives and be criminals here. Now, the Trump administration actually cut off funding to CHIRLA in March because they were informed reliably and correctly, and they found out that this is basically a terrorist front group for the Democrat Party. And as we reported last night on the Right Squad, the cherry on top of all this, CHIRLA also solicits donation online, wait a minute, by way of Act Blue. Act Blue, a big-time mainstream Democrat Party fundraising organization. And that organization, Act Blue, is right now under federal investigation. Act Blue took a few dollars from the man that shot Donald Trump through the ear in Butler, Pennsylvania. And who else? Oh, I think the guy in Florida that wanted to shoot Donald Trump at the golf course also gave money to Act Blue. It's a Democrat Party front group because, the left is here. And the left kills and destroys and burns and loots and plunders because they're not liberals. Isn't that amazing? So Churla says they deny being behind the insurrection, right? But as we had on our TV show last night, Laura Powell, who is an attorney for civil rights, and she's also with an organization called Californians for Good Governance. Good luck with that. But her name is Laura Powell, and she was asked, hey, wait a minute, what about this organization, Churla, and they're raising money through Act Blue, and they get tens of millions in taxpayer dollars, government grants, because the Democrat Party funds anti-American terrorist groups that are handing out riot supplies in Los Angeles in the middle of the riots. But Laura Powell is on the side of truth, justice, and the American way.
What I uncovered was how connected they are to the Democrat establishment in California. Mayor Bass of Los Angeles is very connected to them. They've supported her. She's bragged about helping them get federal funding in the past. A whole slew, really. I mean, they endorsed Kamala Harris. Of course, Gavin Newsom, Adam Schiff has talked about them. They can't directly endorse candidates because they're a 501c3, but they have a 501c4 that they use for those candidate endorsements. They also sponsor a lot of legislation at the state level.
Yes, and they're a Democrat Party front group. And they've got a 501c3, so they can't engage in politics. So they also create a 501c4. You need a team of accountants and former IRS officials so that they can support Democrats, and then they can support riots and violence and mayhem and absolute anarchy. Aren't they amazing? Yeah, man, oh, man. And also in the middle of the riots, they've got Democrat Party allies like the head of the Service Employees International Union, the SEIU, because one of their big bosses was arrested while he was, starting the fire in Los Angeles. Well-funded activists and coordinated social media campaign helped spark the pro-illegal migrant protests on Friday that descended into days of rioting in Los Angeles. The good people of the Daily Caller have the story, and Hudson Crozier has the story at the Daily Caller. Left-wing groups posted calls to action with a location to gather on Friday in unison after the arrest of local Service Employee International Union leader on Friday. He was in the middle of defending illegal aliens. Union people, they want more cheap labor to lower their value in the marketplace, to reduce the amount of money that they'll be paid, which makes no sense, of course, but then they're going to burn your car. So the subsequent uprising echoed scenes of the Black Lives Matter riots in 2020, which brought left-wing radical activists such as professional legal observers into the streets during a wave of protests that led to fires, looting, vandalism, and deaths across the country as the organization's leaders enriched themselves. Boy, did they, with millions. In fact, Black Lives Matter raised billions of dollars, literally billions. And they found their leaders are buying mansions in L.A. and in Canada. They bought the old Communist Party headquarters building in Canada. It's a big mansion because communists in the West, communists everywhere like to live in other people's big mansions, So the amazing stuff they've got going on here. Fox News' Bill Malugin reported on Sunday the protesters were being provided with earplugs, gas masks, water bottles that were then hurled at the police, and they bring in pallets of frozen water bottles, the plastic water bottles, drinking water. And when they're frozen, they're really just a rock, and you throw them at the police, and then you challenge the police to beat you up with a stick, and then you're a victim because you're Rodney King, or if you're really lucky, you can become George Floyd, because they'd really love to have a George Floyd moment in the middle of all this. The left would. Amazing stuff. So the FBI is investigating any and all monetary connections responsible for these riots, FBI Director Kash Patel said on Monday night. Now, as the chaos built up, activist groups and major labor union fanned the flames of the anti-ICE, sovereignty, anti-independent nation movement, because they're communist anarchists who want a body count. So the union people and the lefties fomenting resistance to law enforcement in the streets and online. The SEIU California president, David Huerta, helped kick off the tumultuous weekend by getting arrested during ICE raids on Friday morning. He's there defending the illegal and gangs and crimes and cartels and rioting and looting, because he's just a run-of-the-mill leftist, and he's the SEIU president in California, David Huerta. The Department of Justice says that Huerta tried to obstruct federal agents who were executing a lawful judicial warrant, while ICE conducted raids in Los Angeles, of course. An affidavit accuses Huerta, the SEIU guy, of conspiracy to impede an officer by directing others to block the path of law enforcement vehicles. Now, if you did this to an abortion clinic and you're a 75-year-old grandmother, the Democrats would put you in prison for years, literally for years, which they did here in Washington, D.C. 75-year-old grandmother, 2 years in a penitentiary because she prayed outside an abortion clinic where Democrats were clubbing babies to death like they're harp seals and harvesting their organs. So the SEIU said Huerta was exercising his First Amendment right to observe and document law enforcement activity. He was obstructing. He should be nightstick to the ground, tasered, and then dragged away in cuffs with leg restraints, like Peter Navarro was at the airport for nothing at all. So aligned activist groups and local SEIU chapters began posting announcements on Friday morning on the platform like X and Blue Sky and Instagram, telling people to come to a downtown Los Angeles federal building at 4 p.m. This is where they started obstructing. This is why when the police didn't respond, they're attacking a federal building where the president, the federal government, and the National Guard come in, you see. Amazing stuff. So the Democrat Party and this organization, Churla, a left-wing, immigrant-focused, alleged nonprofit where everybody gets rich, received nearly $34 million in government grants in 2023 just in 1 year, under the Biden administration. So Biden is funding these terrorist riots, the violence in Los Angeles, funded by Joe Biden and the Democrats, who are inciting it, encouraging it, funding it, supplying it. And again, the Daily Caller citing the tax filings. They have a link to their tax filings. And the group, once again, did not respond to a request for comment, because why would they? They're busy burning and looting and doing all that Democrat Party stuff. Aren't they amazing? Man, oh, man. All right, let's grab a quick phone call. So left and again, Joe Biden is funding this. The Democrats are tens of millions of our dollars to fund the organizers of the riots, the inciters of the riots in Los Angeles. Let's and now spreading across the country, just a peaceful, mostly peaceful protest till they start blowing stuff up. Let's go to Jim calling from Woodstock, Virginia. Jimmy, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Big Chris, I love your show. Hey, first I want to say, yes, you can say these people, and yes, you can say query on the radio. but anyway, I've wondered why the FBI can infiltrate these law-abiding gun owner groups and militias and things like that, but we never hear that they infiltrated these groups that are supplying the goods to the rioters.
It's a taxpayer-funded Democrat organization, and the permanent bureaucracy at the Justice Department and the FBI for years now has proved itself to be a political organization in the service of the left and the Democrat Party. And I got to say, Jim, I'm very hopeful now with new leadership at the White House and at the FBI and the Justice Department that all that is going to change. And I got to, our most senior government officials should hold a press conference today laying out this organization and their involvement and the taxpayer dollars going to them. And again, the one local station in Los Angeles caught them on videotape aiding, abetting, assisting. And this is, Joe Biden, whoever in the Biden administration, advocated for giving tens of millions of our dollars to this organization. They should probably all be charged with felony crimes, pre-dawn raids with network camera crews across the street, like Roger Stone's house, and drag them away. These people are involved in a nationwide criminal conspiracy against the United States of America. It's an insurrection, among other things. But, Jim, very good question. And you're right, the word query is fun. And it's like question, but just more fun. It's a query. And these people, I think I'm going to start using those people.
We have people handing out masks and gas masks, and we just saw people graffitiing the sidewalk right in front of this truck, and we've seen people doing burnouts in the street, and there's no local law enforcement around.
Bum, 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 bum. Yes. Got an update for you on Democrats' transgender sports, too, because they're all gender dysphoric as well. Some news media, like Newsmax TV, actually covering what's going on in Los Angeles. CBS News, fake covering it, complaining that it's being covered while they're covering it because they don't want to it's just a small area of the, only a small area of Japan was hit with a nuclear bomb by a Democrat president, but never mind that. Great Newsmax reporter Rob Finnerty in the streets of Los Angeles. What's going on there?
First, rioters broke into a downtown Los Angeles Apple store, the biggest one in California, which we suppose was mostly peaceful looting, I guess. After that, the mostly peaceful looters went to the Adidas store down the street because you got to have nice kicks when you're going to make a phone call. After that, they took down a marijuana dispensary and then a pharmacy and then a jewelry store, and then we lost track.
One of the, I think it was the jewelry store, a number of jewelry stores were hit. They hit there's a jewelry area. I did not know this in Los Angeles, but I'm not surprised. And it was hit targeting the city's jewelry district. And one of the owners, an immigrant man, said, well, I'm wrecked now. I'm out of business now. Everything was stolen. I don't have that much insurance. The Democrats destroyed me.